Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Tonight we're going to be looking at Superman's Pal Jimmy Olsen, number 78. This was published in 1964, and once again, it's a very, very silly comic. But this cover is so intriguing. What could explain this turn of events? I can't imagine. It appears that Jimmy Olsen is giving away the identity of Superman, letting the mob know that Superman is Clark Kent. And the story is called The Revenge of Jimmy Olsen. I can't believe Jimmy Olsen would do this. There must be some explanation, some very cogent explanation of why this happens. So here we have the title story, as we just saw on the cover. This is written by Leo Dorfman. I didn't mention the cover is penciled by Kurt Swan, inked by George Klein, and this story has that same artistic team. We have the little splash panel that kind of lets us know the crazy story we're about to read, kind of previews it. So apparently, Superman has a new best buddy, and Jimmy Olsen's left out in the cold. And Jimmy's pissed off. He even lost his fan club to this new to Superman's new pal, Mark Quinton. It looks like Superman's getting a little too familiar with Mark, the way he's holding him on the hip like that. I like this how now that his fan club is basically done, they threw away all the stuff and they actually labeled the box "Outdated Olsen trophies to be junked." Good thing they labeled that for us. So the whole story begins one day. Jimmy Olsen and his fan club are boating, as they were invited to this nice boat trip by their newest member, Mark Quinton, and it has a glass bottom floor. And they're fishing, having a great time. Jimmy notices there's a machine gun at the bottom of the lake. He says, "I bet it was dropped there by a criminal after he committed a crime." Mark dives into the water. He says, "I'll get it, Jimmy." He says, "Wait, the water's at least 50 feet deep. I better signal for Superman." And he's worried about Mark. He thinks he's going to get the bends. Superman shows up, and he scolds Jimmy. He says, "Jimmy, you wasted my time. Mark handled the situation just fine. My super memory identifies this weapon as one used in a gangland murder." And he says, "Sorry, Superman." And then he thinks, "Did he have to embarrass me in front of my fans?" So Mark says something like, "Wow, it seems like Superman likes me. Do you think maybe I could work along with him one day?" And Jimmy's thinking, "Hold on there, you little son of a bitch. I make one tiny goof and this amateur is ready to replace me." Next day, the fan club is awaiting a visit from Superman. I guess he's going to give them a lecture on spaceships. So someone's prepared a pitcher of lemonade. All of a sudden, Mark knocks the glasses of lemonade off the table. He says, "Don't touch that lemonade. I think it's drugged." Seconds later, Superman arrives, and he says, "Hey, Mark was right. My microscopic vision detects the crystals of a sleeping drug. Some crook may have planned to dope you and steal your trophy collection." "How'd you spot it, Mark?" And Mark says he saw the lemon seeds floating on the surface, which they normally don't do. So once again, he scolds Jimmy. "You should be more alert, Jimmy. Thanks to Mark, your fans escaped being drugged. Come on, Mark, I'll let you assist me in my lecture." And Jimmy's like, "I was supposed to assist him in the lecture. I'd better get on the ball." The following day, Jimmy's fan club is visiting the aquarium. And there was having just goofy little asides here. They're kind of imaginative, but they're also silly. Jimmy Olsen's showing off these electric eels that Superman brought back from Atlantis. This deep-sea diver is teaching them how to spell out the letters of the alphabet. It's very silly. But then all of a sudden, an octopus attacks the diver. And Jimmy signals on a Superman watch. It's not working. Mark says, give me your watch. I think I know what's wrong. He runs outside the aquarium, and now Superman, the watch works. Superman arrives. He says, hey, this guy needs help. He's fighting an octopus. Turns out that Mark, once again being the little know-it-all, he says, oh, I realized the electricity from those eels was interfering with the electronic circuits of Jimmy's watch. So I ran outside where there'd be no interference. Smart thinking, Mark, says Superman. Keep the watch, son. You'll put it to better use than Jimmy. Oh, this is Superman's such a dick. And Jimmy's, of course, like holding back the tears. He's like, you can't take my watch away after all we've been through. And Superman just coldly says, frankly, Jimmy, you've been slipping. I think you need a rest. And then he takes Mark away to the Fortress of Solitude. The other kids in the fan club are like, isn't Mark terrific? And Jimmy's just like, this is like a horrible dream. So back at the Daily Planet, Perry White tries to save Jimmy's feelings by handing the new story to Lois, even though at first he was going to give it to Jimmy, because the story is Superman gets new pal, Olsen out, Quentin in. And Perry didn't want Jimmy to have to write the story. So now it looks like they're even going to groom Mark to take over his job. Due to Superman's recommendation, they're training Mark to be a new cub reporter for the Daily Planet. Jimmy's had enough. He's like, first he steals my friendship with Superman, then he takes away my fans. And now you're training him to take my place on the planet. I quit. And he runs away. Gloomily, he wanders the streets. And he instantly realizes he made a mistake. He's got no job now. But then these bad guys pull up to him. And turns out this guy's the Cincinnati Kid. He's a famous mobster. It's like, step in the car, son. I've got a proposition for you. I just heard about the whole Superman thing. Jimmy's all like, what do I have to lose? So basically, this Cincinnati Kid offers Jimmy this rent-free, beautiful, cool apartment, $500 a week. But all he has to do is basically be the editor and write for this underworld newspaper, a newspaper for mobsters. Kind of a neat idea. I'd definitely try to get copies of that if I was able. So Jimmy says, yeah, I'll take the job. If Superman doesn't like it, whatever, he can go suck an egg. I'm looking out for number one. So he's writing all these articles for the mobsters, even publishing ads that offer a $100,000 reward for Superman's secret identity. And Jimmy even says, I don't care. He double-crossed me. Screw him. So this one guy shows up and he says, hey, I got proof that Superman is this famous actor, Rex Mason. I have a picture of him and everything, turning into Superman. Now, Jimmy Olsen, he says, I'm going to collect that reward. Because he's not Rex Mason. I know this. And I look how evil Jimmy looks now. It's like he's become an evil villain. So Jimmy brings out this cardboard Superman and then basically puts a Clark Kent suit over him and puts glasses on Superman. And he says, see, it's Clark Kent. Cincinnati Kid says, hey, if you're on the level, the reward's yours. We've been saving some kryptonite. We're gonna off Superman. Well, we're gonna off Clark Kent. He'll be easier to get to. And so the next day we see this shadowy figure in an alley. He's telling Superman, bad news, Superman. Olsen was ready to betray you. He claims he can prove you're Clark Kent. Superman's all choked up. So all of a sudden, Superman hears his this emergency, the signal from his the what do you call it? The supersonic signal from the watch, the Superman's watch. Superman responds to the alarm, and Jimmy is hanging out with Mark. And Jimmy says, "I begged Mark to call you. When I saw the infrared photo which revealed your Rex Mason identity, I attempted to fool the syndicate by proving you were someone else. Naturally, I picked the least likely person for your other identity, Clark Kent." Fast thinking, Jimmy says Superman, but he thinks, "Ooh, that was close. He almost double-crossed me without even intending to." Suddenly, the gangsters show up. And it turns out they're actually FBI agents. So this whole cruel ruse was a plot by Superman, breaking Jimmy's heart, making him feel like shit. And so here's the convoluted, stupid explanation, like all these comics have. So the FBI summoned Superman weeks ago. Superman were worried. What if one day Olsen becomes careless and unreliable as your pal, and you had to replace him? How would he react? Would he be loyal, or would he betray your secrets out of anger? It's like a super security check. I see. Let's do this. So Superman deliberately planned to make Jimmy angry by picking a new pal. Turns out Mark is actually Aqualad, Aquaman's junior partner. And Jimmy, and this is just another dumb little thing. It all fits together now. All of your amazing feats involved water. The deep dive I get, he had to swim 50 feet down to the bottom of the lake. But then he's like, and the lemonade. I don't think you need an Aqualad to knock over some lemonade. Anyone could have done that. You don't need underwater powers. And the octopus that grabbed the diver. Once again, he didn't do anything with his underwater powers. He just ran outside with a signal watch. God, this is so dumb. Of course, the water wasn't drugged at all. Superman planted the machine gun. And of course, Jimmy just laughs. He doesn't say, "Wow, Superman's a huge dick. He didn't trust me in the first place. And he put me through this emotionally devastating security check loyalty test." And Jimmy says, "I sure had you FBI agents fooled by claiming Superman was Clark Kent." And then they say, "Are you kidding? Superman would never pick a namby-pamby character like Kent for his other self." Later at the clubhouse, happy ending. And Superman says, "I assure you, Jimmy will always be my best pal." And then for some reason, Aqualad develops Down syndrome, it looks like, by the way Kurt Swan and George Klein draw him. I don't know why. But this story is just so stupid. The story's fucked. It's like, there's so many stories in Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen where Superman's such a jerk. He's Superman's supposed to be like the Boy Scout, just basically the best guy in the world. And in these old comics, though, he does all this shitty stuff to his friends that if he was your friend, you would dump him in a second. You would be like, "You're a shitty friend. I don't ever want to see you again." It's crazy, these stories. It's that's why I love them. That's why I love Mort Weisinger edited comics, because this story's bonkers. But to be honest, I was turning every page with bated breath. I was like, how the hell are they going to explain this? What the hell? I can't even imagine. Of course, they didn't explain it very well. They made up some ridiculous thing at the end. So now we have the baby that saved Metropolis. Once again, we get a very perplexing splash panel, which just makes us say, how the hell did we get to this? Jimmy Olsen's dressed up like a baby, and a giant robot nanny is feeding him milk from a bottle. So one day, Superman visits Jimmy Olsen at the Daily Planet. He says, "Hey, I'm going to outer space. And Jimmy's like, "Oh, I get it, Superman. I'll take care of things while you're away." He's like, "No. Every time I go out to space, you get into some mess. So just please, while I'm gone, don't play the hero. Don't fuck around. Just keep your nose clean. And everyone agrees, like Perry White and Lois Lane are like, yeah, he's right. You are a screw-up. You mess up all the time. Jimmy just kind of laughs it off. It's like, I don't know what they're talking about. He has these, like, revenge fantasies where Superman is being menaced by a green kryptonite dragon. And he's like, oh, you told me not to bother you, so I'm not going to help you. Perry and Lois are about to drown in a flood. And he's like, oh, this boat's too small. And remember, you told me not to get in your hair. Of course, Jimmy says, oh, I guess I wouldn't really be like that. So now Jimmy's going on a very late date with Lucy Lane. And I guess she has to go. She's putting lipstick on. And all of a sudden, this giant crane shows up and lifts their house up. Jimmy, once again, it's his natural instinct. He's like, I'm gonna be the hero here. Lucy says, remember what Superman said? Because even Lucy agreed with Superman that Jimmy always gets in trouble. So he climbs into the cab of this giant crane. There's no one inside, and there's really giant, big buttons, as if it was made for someone way bigger than a human. By pressing all the buttons, it deposits this other house that the crane picked up onto this giant dump truck, which hauls it away and dumps it. Jimmy catches up with Lucy, and she says, you could have got us all killed. He's like, hey, I got you away from the crane, didn't I? Then they're scooped up by this giant steam shovel. They see other giant size kind of vehicles just causing havoc throughout the city. The steam shovel deposits them right in front of a giant roller. And once again, Jimmy jumps into the cab, tries to turn it off with this giant gear shift. The thing runs through some condemned buildings, conveniently, but Jimmy does end up stopping it. He decides to follow the treads back from whence they came to find the origin of these strange vehicles, these gigantic vehicles. And then he finds this very strange tableau. He sees all these giant toys and a colossal robot standing above them. And then there's a machine with headphones. And somehow Jimmy, just by putting his head near it, realizes, this is a telepathic teaching machine. These machines are all toys from a giant world in another dimension. And this giant figure is a robot nursemaid, programmed to care for children automatically. It responds to thoughts. These baby clothes give me an idea. And I'm sorry, guys, I realize that, Jimmy figures it out because it is telepathic. It just throws these thoughts in his head. So he knows what's going on. I kind of want to review this Rocky and Bullwinkle page, but it's just an ad for Cheerios. So he puts on this little outfit and basically tricks the robot nanny to gather up all the other vehicles, the toys. He starts crying and goes, me want other toys that went away, boy. So the nanny does, because she telepathically picks up his thoughts, gathers up all these marauding vehicles. But then, to Jimmy's chagrin, she lifts him up and starts feeding him with a bottle. And he's all, glug, glug, cut it out. Superman arrives right then. This is, of course, just like the reader is like, what the hell is going on here? How did things get to this state? And Jimmy says, turn this thing off. Superman realizes that he once had an adventure in another dimension where there were these giant children. He figures they're from that dimension. And Superman goes back to this dimension. We don't even see the denizens of this dimension, but we see these parents who are like, children, we told you not to use the dimensional projector. You've accidentally hurled your nurse and all your toys into another dimension. So Superman just quietly leaves them there and goes back to our dimension. And Jimmy says, you're not going to tell Lucy about me impersonating a baby. Superman says, No, Jimmy, I'll never give away the secret that you were the baby who saved Metropolis. Oh my God. So here's one of those. Oh, guys, I forgot to tell you that was written by Bill Finger and drawn by Al Plastino. Next, we have one of those kind of almost public service type announcements, even though this is just about hobbies. This is written by Jack Schiff, drawn by Sheldon Moldoff, like the majority of them. And this is very enlightening how collecting stamps and building model kits can be really broaden your horizons and lead you onto a career in the future. We have a little gag strip called Honey in Hollywood by Henry Boltonoff. This is such a bad, really dumb joke. Just like an ineptly told joke. That's just like, ugh, stupid. Most of these things were. And now we have the last story in the issue, The Return of Jimmy's Lost Love. This is a sequel to a story that appeared in Jimmy Olsen, like, I don't know, 4 issues ago or something. It's a very convoluted story. So apparently, I'm just going to read this, guys. This is another story about Jimmy's broken romance with starlet Sandra Rogers, whom he doesn't realize is really his girlfriend, Lucy Lane, in disguise. Nor does Sandra know that the glamorous magi she adores is none other than Jimmy Olsen, also in disguise. So we see Jimmy Olsen dressed as the magi, and he's actually thinking to himself, as he whispers words of love to this Sandra Rogers, he's thinking, if this terrific dish knew I'm really Jimmy Olsen, who she despises, she'd drop me like a hot potato. Lucy Lane, dressed as Sandra Rogers, who's also whispering words of love, she says, if this tall, handsome stage magician knew I'm really only Lucy Lane in disguise, he'd hate me for deceiving him. He's everything Jimmy isn't. Now, I think I've already shown off some stories in this video about Jimmy Olsen and Lucy Lane's incredibly dysfunctional relationship. This one just takes the cake. This is, they even say in the introduction that it's an ironic comedy, a rollicking tale. This is like an art house film from Sweden. This is emotionally devastating. It's just realizing how just shitty their relationship is. So one day, Lucy shows up at the Daily Planet. She says, Jimmy, would you give me a ride to the airport? Jimmy is just putting to bed a story about Superman finding some fossils. It's going to be a front page story. Jimmy gives her a heart-shaped locket. She says, it's kind of cornball, but thanks anyway. And Jimmy's got a scowl on his face. He's thinking, those are real jewels on it. That trinket cost me a month's salary and Shaq's board. Grr. So like I've said before, Lucy Lane is a terrible person. She's a piece of shit. He says, the charge for this trip will be 1 kiss, madam. She says, sorry, Jimmy, I don't want to smear my lipstick. Maybe next time. Once again, he gets nothing from this relationship. I'm sorry, guys, I forgot to mention, this is written by Jerry Siegel, the creative Superman, and penciled by George Swan and inked by George Klein, just like the cover in the first story. So Jimmy at least admits to himself finally that, yeah, it looks like my romance with Lucy is kind of a flop. Maybe I'll see that gorgeous starlet Sandra Rogers again. He's still kind of fondly thinking about when he dressed up as Magi the Magnificent and wooed her. They were very much in love. Lucy's thinking a very similar thing. Jimmy's too immature. Oh, I wish I could meet the Magi again, who was attracted to me while I was disguised as Sandra Rogers. So when she gets back to her job, Lucy's boss says, someone's been stealing stuff from airplanes. We want you to go in disguise and go undercover and look for the thief. So since she has to don a disguise, she says, I'm going to dress up like Sandra Rogers again for sentimental reasons. It's almost like renewing an old acquaintance. She looks pretty damn hot, I gotta say, as Sandra Rogers. So she's walking through the airport and Jimmy Olsen sees her. He says, oh my God, it's Sandra Rogers. I never thought I'd see her again. Of course, Jimmy has a disguise trunk in his car at all times. I mean, you should. Everyone should have that. And he quickly dresses up as Magi. He even puts on these like fake muscles, so he seems like he's got a better build. He accidentally bumps into her. Both of them are thrilled to see each other. She says, "Oh, please, Magi, show me one of your amazing tricks. I've missed you so." And he looks in his crystal ball and he says, "See those guys unloading the new issue of the Daily Planet? By reading the crystal ball, I can tell you what the headline is." And, of course, he knows because he wrote it. Superman discovers rare fossils. She buys a copy, of course, and it's like, "Oh, my God, it's amazing. How do you do it?" I like how they think that the reader's so dumb that they won't remember 2 pages ago. Jimmy has to think in a thought bubble, says, "She doesn't know I wrote the story in the headline, and my identity is Jimmy Olsen." It's like, we remember you needlessly put in that other thought balloon about how you wrote a story about fossils and Superman. But, yeah, they have to reiterate it. I guess these were written for little kids, but... And then there's some more weirdness about this. I really want to read the first story, the first part of this, the story that this is a sequel to. While Lucy's hanging out with him, she's thinking, "I'd really like to tell him who I am, but I can't. He dislikes blondes because of a fickle blonde girl he knew." Jimmy thinks, "I can't tell her who I really am because she once told me she really doesn't like Jimmy." So I don't know what just Sandra Rogers doesn't like Jimmy. So these guys are just loving on each other. They're thrilled. She wants him to do another. She mentions Superman. He says, "I'm more powerful than Superman." And he summons Superman down. And it looks like Superman's being pulled against his will. He's like, "What's happening to me?" But really, Jimmy is just summoning Superman with his signal watch. And of course, Superman thinks to himself, "When I got the ultrasonic signal and my supervision revealed Jimmy was masquerading as a magician, I caught on what he wanted to impress that girl. So I put on that helpless act." It's like, really? I know Superman's smart as hell, but that's just ridiculous. So he leaves, and he gives her this little, like, Magi coin. Or is it Magi? I'll call him Magi. And she's very appreciative and starts kissing him all over the face. Now, all Jimmy could think about is when I gave Lucy an expensive gift, she all but yawned in my face. But look at Sandra. And also, Lucy didn't want her lipstick smeared, but Sandra doesn't worry. And then I like this picture of Jimmy Olsen as a giant rat. He's like, "Wait a second, I'm being unfair. Lucy can be pretty sweet when she wants to be." When? She's never been sweet ever to you. She's constantly horrible to you. And so he feels like a rat. He feels like he's two-timing Lucy. It's like, she's not really your girlfriend. She lets you drive her places, and she lets you buy her presents. She doesn't even kiss you. It's driving me crazy. So now he's starting to feel guilty about being with Sandra, quote unquote. For some reason, they decide to go swimming, which is problematic, of course, because Jimmy can't take off his suit or she'll see that fake padding. He's also wearing lifts that make him taller. So he runs back to his car, which happens to be parked right there still, changes back into Jimmy, shows up, tells Sandra Rogers that some guy named Magi the Magnificent asked me to tell you he suddenly remembered he had to go meet an old magician friend. One of the best excuses in the book, like in the middle of a date. "Oh yeah, I just remembered I have to visit an old friend. See ya." But he says he'll hook up with you later at the airport. So now, meanwhile, finally, Lucy Lane, disguised as Sandra, is doing her job. She's snooping around the airport. She sees this airline worker using a handy-dandy steal-it-yourself extension rod to make a little hole in this plane, grab the mail bag. And then right then, Magi shows up. Jimmy. The criminal sees them. It says, "Oh, witnesses." Throws the mailbag at him. Meanwhile, Superman is stopping two planes from colliding in the fog. The bad guy pulls a gun on the two of them. And she says, "Summon Superman like you did earlier today." Jimmy had a hole in his pocket, though. And so the watch, because he didn't have the watch on when he was pretending to be Magi, it fell through the hole. So then he makes a makeshift Superman signal with the spotlight, putting that little thing there. Superman sees it, comes down and saves the day. So now Lucy's thinking to herself, maybe I should tell Magi that I'm really Lucy Lane. And Jimmy's thinking the same thing. But then Jimmy thinks of the horrible consequences. He says he couldn't stand the look of horror on her face when she realizes the truth. And in his imagination, he sees her. "You, Magi, you're that conceited shrimp, Olsen? No, eek!" That would be pretty horrible if a woman actually responded that way. And now Lucy Lane thinks the same thing, roughly. And in her imagination, we see Magi saying, You're a deceitful blonde. Oh, what a trusting fool I've been. I hate you." So now Jimmy, as Magi, says, "I must go to Tibet to study forbidden ancient magic." And Lucy says, "Goodbye, my career calls." "I shall think of you often, precious," Jimmy says as he walks away, crying on the inside. And Lucy feels the same way. She thinks, how can a great love like ours die? After Jimmy and Lucy change back to their real identities and meet again, he says, "Want a lift?" Thinking, choke. "All right," sob. And guys, this is the kicker. This is so fucking depressing. Lucy's thinking, wouldn't it be awful if I married Jimmy on the rebound and he never knew that in my secret heart I love Magi after all? Jimmy's thinking, sigh, I guess Sandra's the type you worship hopelessly. Then you settle for someone like Lucy. Oh my God. Why are these two together? It's so sad and pathetic. It seems like Lucy definitely seems like she hates Jimmy's guts. But Jimmy deep down is just like, I think he's had 5 different romances where he's just like, oh, this woman's way nicer than Lucy. But he always has this loyalty to Lucy, but literally she's not his girlfriend. Maybe I haven't read enough Jimmy Olsen, but it seems like she never even likes him. All she does is string him along, use him, and berate him about stuff. So I don't know. It's very strange to me. Also kind of fascinating. This their relationship is like an amazing soap opera to me. Got some nicely designed ads as they did back in the day. And that's it for Superman's Pal Jimmy Olsen, number 78. Hope you guys enjoyed looking at that with me. Sometimes looking at these is frustrating, where you're just like, come on, this is stupid. This is too stupid. But like I said, they're always fun for me. No matter how the stupider they get, the kind of funner they are to read. Because I just can't believe they're doing it. That they think kids are going to swallow this shit. They did. And I'm a 58-year-old man, and I'm swallowing this shit. So, I don't know what I'm talking about. So thanks so much for watching, guys. And I hope to see you next time here at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.